Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the Scholarly Sorcerer Podcast. I'm your host, Bilbo's Bag, and this is my co-host, BG Joe.
Hello.
Today, we're going to be going over a list of controversies Deca has been involved with. Whether or not this list is comprehensive is... Well, no, this list is not comprehensive at all. We're definitely missing some, and we may go over some more in the future. But for now, we're just going over some of the more major ones that they've had. And most of this episode is just going to be saying Deca bad, because Deca has never handled a controversy well. The first controversy on our list is the UGC controversy.
Alright, I've got the post here, the original post from Wengeline. It talks about the poor experience that she had in the content creation for Deca with the composer, and that she's leaving. It's a pretty extensive post, got a lot of upvotes, a lot of attention. It did prompt a response from Deca about user-generated content. I believe the post itself was also commented on. Let's see what they had to say. Where's the Deca? Is it at the bottom? It is, from Deca Wotan. It's all the way at the bottom. Oh, it's huge! It has negative 348 upvotes. Okay, here's what Wotan had to say. Hello everyone. Ever since the beginning of the Realm project, music has not been indeed a priority. Until now, it still has a lower priority than quality of life features, for instance. We are willing to change this if the community finds it to be more important. Nonetheless, in the early days, we had team members that valued music and their personal crusades to find talented artists and build up a group of volunteers that could provide that music. And we are very happy they have found Wengeline as well as Spave. These guys are amazing at what they do. From the very beginning, they were told there would be no compensation. It was a mere side project to elevate the Realm experience with music. After discussions within the team, those team members got approval to continue this effort, and we created a contract to use the music they created in-game. We never had rigorous deadlines or straight-up requests to finish work on a timely manner. Only later, with dungeon reworks in 03, we prioritized certain tracks before others, but still no hard delivery dates. It was purely a creative group to hone skills and create something for a game they play and love, which is also reflected in the contract. Only later we discussed with them potential monetary compensation, as we wanted to see them get more exposure out of the project. This was a tough debate we had to go through internally, but after months of back and forth, we managed to get a budget and presented it to the musicians. This didn't mean they would be hired. The group would still work on a voluntary basis, so no deadlines. It saddened us to hear they wanted to leave after this offer, as we thought this would be a great opportunity to build up on the premise of great music and Realm. We still want to clarify some affirmations made on the post. These credits didn't appear in the game until late July 2020, almost half a year after Exalt was available. The link I was promised isn't in the game even to this day. We only implemented the credits with the official release of Exalt. This was never promised to be in any earlier. A fail on our part here would be to not implement the link. Then again, we referenced and linked at any possible moment on YouTube, our blog, and Reddit posts. We even have the music always linked at the top of our website. I have been promised a system for adaptive music that would allow track switching mid-dungeon. This would have allowed for boss tracks in dungeons, biome/area theme tracks in realms, etc. This is still not in the game after years. The adaptive music and more advanced systems for blending music are still in the backlog. It was deprioritized, as well as we had to make tough choices. As we are a small team, there's that small team quote, they love to throw that around, between implementing new gameplay features and fixing bugs. Technically, Deca can continue not paying passionate artists and make me feel disposable, but it is a huge moral failing on their end, considering Deca definitely has the money to compensate us for the work we put in. To Wengeline, we never intended to make you feel disposable, actually quite the contrary. We liked hearing your opinion and valued your input in regards to music above everyone else's opinion. even inside the team. We are sorry you felt that way.
Okay, I'm just gonna have to stop here and
Alright.
comment. We are sorry you felt this way is the most generic way to apologize while blaming the person you are apologizing.
Yeah, that's something that Wotan's like kind of like I noticed with Wotan is they'll try to blame other people for things. Alright, so here we
Anyways,
go.
you can keep moving now.
At one point, fairly early into the project, I was offered a job at Deca to do audio implementation work, technical sound design, and compose more music for the game. Mental health-wise, I was doing incredibly awful at the time and therefore declined, in hopes of being able to return to this after some time when things got better. And things have gotten so much better. At a later point, I asked about the offer again, but by then a new manager handled the Realm of the Man God Exalt team, and they didn't want to hire me anymore. Audio isn't that much of a priority, I was told. My work as a composer and sound designer was merely an afterthought. We wanted high-quality audio professionals on the team at some point in the future, and the first person that came into our mind was Wangeline, obviously. Initial discussions involved how such a position could look like and what the requirements would be. We have shared this topic with Wangeline, but no offer was ever made. I've told Deca my usual rates for video game soundtracks. I also compose music for various other games, and they basically dismissed that. Like little shards of candy, that was supposed to encourage me to work faster and counteract all the disappointments and lost interest, not compensate me properly. We discussed the rates. It was not dismissed at all, and even helped increase the outcome of the offer we presented. The compensation was never intended to make the music creators work faster or deliver on tighter deadlines. The voluntary work relationship wouldn't have changed with the offer. The idea was to keep the group open to work as you see fit, based on creativity and freedom of expression. Like in any business proposal, there was a chance for the offer being rejected, and it was. Lastly, we want to say that we know the value the role music plays in the industry and video games in general. We appreciate the time and effort everyone has put into making Realm OST. We hope that in the future we can dedicate more time and resources into it. Thank you, the Realm team. And Reddit
Let's
didn't like
just
that.
go through this point by point. These credits didn't appear in the game until late July 2020, almost half a year after Exalt was available. The link I was promised isn't in the game even to this day. Yeah, he basically just says, oh, we literally didn't do what we promised, but we linked you in other places, so stop complaining. They quite literally were paying her in exposure and didn't even give her the exposure they promised.
Really does feel like, even today, it just feels like they don't really care that much about music. Like, they say that they know how important it is, but it really doesn't feel like that. Even today, they have new composers now. They've got the two Scallions. I haven't heard much about them yet, but it doesn't really feel like they care much about music.
The fact that they don't have a link in the, like, they didn't put a link in the game despite promising it is a really crappy thing on their part. And their response is literally just, oh yeah, but we linked you on other places, so shut up. That's just very disgusting. Anyways, the next point is the adaptive music system. The backlog. The backlog is
a great place.
We should have an episode just about things on the backlog.
Of course, yes.
Okay, the amount of times they've used the excuse that, oh, it's in the backlog, and then never implemented things.
Well, it is in the backlog. It's just that they want to add nil drops before they add highly requested features, you know.
Yeah, just the backlog. What a meme.
You know.
The dynamic music system, literal years in the backlog, so, you know.
Yeah, everyone's
Good job,
wanted
Dick.
dynamic music. I know Wangeline was definitely working on boss themes, and they just never got added because there was never adaptive music. And it kind of just plays into showing that it really doesn't look like they care. Like, they can say they care as much as they want to, but through their actions, it just feels like they don't really care. And music is very important, and yet they just don't seem to care about it that much.
Next point. This is the one I stopped at earlier. Technically, Deca can continue not paying passionate artists and make me feel disposable. But it is a huge moral failing on their end, considering Deca definitely has the money to compensate us for the work that we put in. Deca makes a lot of money, like a lot of money, and they did not compensate pretty much any of the people working on their game for a long time.
It's nice that they're having like volunteers and they're accepting it, but then they just don't treat those volunteers very well, as shown here, which is unfortunate.
The language used in this post is like, it's not accepting any responsibility at all here. It's like, oh, we liked hearing your opinion and valued your input in regards to the music above everyone else's opinion. But like, you didn't, because you didn't do any of the things she wanted.
You know, they had some difficult internal discussion about it. It was difficult, tough stuff, you know, nil drops or music. Obviously, I'm sure that the people working on making the dynamic music aren't the same people who made nil drops, but it's just amusing to me that nil drops got added before like anything else.
Okay, so you assume that there are people working on the dynamic music system.
Well, who would hypothetically work on it if it was going to be added.
I doubt they've put any time into it at all.
I'm sure there's been discussion about it, and they've just decided because it feels like they don't see the music as a very big priority. So they just usually put other things in front of it that may seem to the community to be less important than, say, dynamic music. When to Deca, these changes that they're putting above it are far more important than dynamic music, because even though they say they value the music, it really feels like they don't.
I just really can't get over the line, "We are sorry that you felt this way." Like, just, it's really gross. Like, when you're apologizing to someone, you should apologize for something you've done wrong. You shouldn't apologize for the way they feel.
Alright,
really
and then a bit after this post, they posted another thing about user-generated content, which is a very similar boat, so I'm going to bring it up here. It says, "Hello Realmers, we have been hearing about your concerns about our relationship with the user-generated content group. From the very beginning, we wanted to have Realm to be community-driven, and thanks to UGC efforts, we were able to release more content with much more often than what we could imagine. The goal of creating the group was to involve more of the community and provide them with tools to enjoy creating content for the game, as they were always already submitting it. As you all know, 2 of our UGC members that were creating the Realm OST left the program last week, and given the situation, we thought it would be best to remove the music and that they had delivered since 2020, but keep all music they created while still under our mutual agreement. We are, as well, reevaluating our relationship with the UGC group. We are still not done with this process and want to keep you up to date with all the developments. We are aiming to ensure the purpose of the group is to have fun. We just want them to have fun. It was because of this passion for making content for fun that we hired into paid positions some of the members of the UGC group. Lastly, we want to thank Wang Alliance Babe, as well as all the UGC members for the amazing dedication and love they've shown over the years, the Realm team." So much for keeping us updated, because we haven't heard anything, and it's been like 5 months now. And also in the Q&A last weekend, they said that there's going to be a post about this very soon. So clearly they're almost done. Or maybe they're keeping us updated. We haven't actually seen the post yet. But I would have loved to hear more frequent updates about this new system, whatever it is. And they've made sure to let you know that it's about having fun. It's 3 sentences in a row. You can see fun. Lots of fun.
Honestly, this post is done a lot better than the response to Wangaline was. I mean, this post isn't horrible. The comment on Wangaline's post was actively just horribly written. Like, this one, at least, there's some degree of it not being terrible. Like, they list the people who left. They're polite about things. They're not apologizing for the way other people feel. The fun lines are kind of repetitive and weird, but overall, this isn't the worst possible thing. The fact that they didn't inform anyone of anything after this, you know, we'll have to wait and see. But maybe we'll actually learn something. I know there have been rumors and leaks of things from people in the UGC.
It's not really a rumor. It was confirmed by Wotan that there'd be an announcement relating to it very soon.
Yeah, no. I know that there's the announcement very soon. I'm just talking about the actual rumors of what will happen with UGC. But
rumors.
As far as that goes, until things have actually been confirmed, talking about that is not really supposed to happen, so we'll just move on to the next one.
All right.
Which is the Vow drama.
Oh no. All right. This started with a video from Sebchu. Realm of the Mad God player gets scammed, loses a potential 200,000 realm gold, and it's a video talking about how he opened a bunch of Biff's extras during the Easter event and got 2 secret hoards, which are supposed to each give you 100,000 realm gold. He goes to redeem them, and then support tells him that he was duping or otherwise cheating to get the items, and they're not going to give him the 200,000 realm gold. And how this is not true because Vow doesn't cheat. And Deca's response on this one, let's see. It's another big drama, so there's a whole lot of comments, but I do remember Deca definitely responded to this. Maybe it's
probably at the very bottom. Or deleted.
It's definitely not deleted. It probably was just downvoted, because every controversial thing Deca says gets downvoted. Let's see. Reddit is so much fun when something gets downvoted. Oh no, here it is. It's got a bunch of upvotes, 72 upvotes. Hello roamers. We usually don't comment publicly on these situations, but given that the video doesn't discuss the entire situation and become a heated public matter against our wishes, we've accelerated the ongoing investigation and can tell you that the player legally obtained only 133 tickets and yet somehow managed to open 1,813 of them. Based on this information, we will take proper action with said account and will no longer be commenting or discussing the situation further. And then Nigel replies, like, given this info, why weren't they perma-banned immediately instead of now? Because you'd think they were originally. Support told them they need to stop talking about it or they'll get banned. But you'd think if they were really this obviously duping from Deca's information, that he would have been banned right away.
Yeah, this situation is really weird on Deca's part. As far as I can tell, Vow was an upstanding member of the community mostly, and we don't have proof one way or the other whether Vow is duping or not, but I highly doubt that Vow was actually cheating, and Deca's response only confirms my suspicions.
And then several months after that, actually, it was posted on Reddit, The Case of Vow, an investigation. And so this was a massive investigation done by Mizumi and ZQuidX. It's a really big document, obviously not going to read all of it here. So down here at the conclusion, here we will lay out what we believe are our most essential findings and other key details to help us arrive at likely explanations. First thing, Vow remained focused on defending his innocence. He maintained that he didn't engage in suspicious or malicious activity, both publicly and in his responses to support tickets. He insisted Deca to explain their accusations. Vow appeared content with not receiving the reward after everything became public, claiming the reward wasn't worth the trouble of trying to negotiate with support. He was more angry about being treated as a cheater than not receiving the 200,000 gold. Vow was aware of and reached the storage limit, so basically if you have too many items in your vault, you'll get disconnected whenever you try to leave your vault. It's happened to me on testing before, but generally on production, you will not have that many items. But of course, Val spent a lot of money during the Easter events, so he actually did hit this limit. We did not find any evidence of him publicly talking about the reroll bug, but if the bug still existed, he would have been in a position to utilize it to reroll the Biff's extras and Biff secrets infinitely. So with this bug, you could actually use skin reroll items or like mystery items, sort of like the Biff's extras. You could use them, see what you got. If you weren't satisfied with it, you could leave the vault, it would roll back, then you could go back in and try again. And if you were happy with what you got, you could, I think on testing at least, I was able to stand around in my vault for a while and it would save whatever I had. Val's screenshot, so then there's a couple screenshots of him saying, I got infinite oops because I had 8,500 items in gift chest. Vault plus potion chest plus gift chest equals 12,992 infinite oops. So he's saying that he does get the disconnect bug because he has plenty of items, too many items. Val's screenshots of his first Biff secrets and his first secret hoard obtained from that Biff secret were uploaded over 1 hour apart, which was unusual. Screenshot of first Biff secret. So the first Biff secret was April 14th, 2021 at 2:28 a.m. And the screenshot of the secret hoard obtained from Biff secret, same day but about an hour later. Website used to determine the time of the uploads, and there's a website linked here. Val's chances of having obtained the rewards he did legitimately are minuscule. Our statistical analysis showed that even when giving Val the absolute greatest benefit of the doubt by allowing him the theoretical maximum obtainable amount of Biff extras, the probability to roll what he did was 0.057%. As comparison, the numbers that Deca provided are 243 times as likely to yield the same results. Verdict: is Val guilty or innocent? Out of all the possible theories for how Val obtained 2 secret hoards, there seems to be one moderately plausible explanation that stands out to us, out of a few highly unlikely ones. If we assume Val did abuse the full vault reroll bug, several pieces of evidence happen to fit. Val is uniquely in a position to discover the storage limit, which he did. He would not have to risk downloading a hack client or purchasing dupes. He would have been able to open both more Biff extras and more Biff secrets than legitimately obtained, which fits in line with Deca's observations. There is now a reason for the 1 hour gap in between his first Biff secrets and the secret hoard inside, time spent rerolling the secret. Even though he would have had to have acted on purpose to abuse the vault rerolls, he could technically defend himself against accusations of item duplication or cheats, however ingenuine in doing so. This last point is interesting. Assuming Val did exploit this bug, would anyone else in his position defend themselves as he did? Was it all for an act for the public, or was there a sort of internal psychological compromise that gave Val confidence that he was in the right? Ultimately, why did he do it? If we dismiss the full vault reroll bug, other questions come up that seem harder to answer. How does one explain the hour gap between the first Biff secret and secret hoard? Why wouldn't one open the item and then post the result immediately? If Val decided to execute a dupe on a hack client himself, how would he have accomplished it if there were supposedly no known public dupe method at the time? Why would he do it? If Val decided to buy a dupe, would proof of that have surfaced by now? Why would he do it? Would Deca ban such a big spender with no previous record if they weren't sure of their data? If his rewards were obtained legitimately, most people in his position give up the 200,000 would most people in his position give up the 200,000 gold after being threatened by support? Should we be open to believing that Val defied all odds, obtained his rewards legitimately, only for Deca to place suspicion on this particular account? Why would Val claim to have opened 300 Biff's extras for his first Biff secret, when we showed that this would not have been possible? Suppose he did actually open the theoretical maximum of 292 Biff's extras for his first Biff secret. Is it realistic to say that he would have spent all his gold on it? While we've done all this extensive investigation and analysis in pursuit of the likely truth, we want to remind the reader that our concluding thoughts should not be necessarily seen as fact. Our desire is to show how well various explanations match up to the evidence, but at the end of the day, let the reader make their judgments themselves. The question of why might someone do this was, is, and will be a recurring curiosity that players will have about the case. The human self is as much of a mystery as it is vulnerable. Regardless of what you choose to believe, please remember to treat everyone with kindness and respect. So what they're saying is, it seems likely that he would have abused the Vault reroll bug to infinitely reroll the extras until he got the best rewards, which was the 100,000 secret hoard.
I mean, it's not his fault that Deca put that bug in the game, so, like...
Yeah, that's what it could be. He could, like, be trying to justify it, like, oh, well, it's in the game, so it wasn't really an exploit. It wasn't duplicating the items, you know. It might seem justified to Val.
I do not see any problem with exploiting bugs that Deca fails to patch out.
It is against the terms of service, I believe.
Just because it's in the terms of service doesn't make it right.
Well, it makes it against the terms of service to not follow the terms of service. That did not sound right. But you get what I'm saying. So
Even
this
if he was re-rolling with a bug, I don't think he should have been banned.
Well, they did have to fast forward their investigation, as Wotan stated, because of just the huge drama and how it blew up and everyone was just super mad at Deca. So they did fast forward their investigation on it. So they might have made a hasty, rash decision that might not have been entirely justified. If
They weren't
say this is what he
forced
did.
to rush their decision. They could have put out a post and said, we're launching an investigation into this case, and once we have reached our conclusion, we'll post a response. You could have just said that and then launched a proper investigation. There was no requirement for them to respond quickly.
It looks nice if they respond quickly, especially when the community manager is already not exactly liked by some. It makes them look a lot better if they actually get a response out. Makes Deca look better. It's just ideal to get a good response out.
But their response was horrible.
It wasn't horrible. They said what the data they had stated, and they said that they're going to take action on it.
Their response was not a good response.
It wasn't as good as it could have been, but it had the information out there.
They should have launched a proper investigation, said that they were launching a proper investigation, and then actually done a proper investigation. And then they could have taken action after a proper investigation. Rushing things to have better PR is never a good way to do things. And if they had actually rushed things, like if they had not rushed things, they just took their time, they put out a good response that said, we're going to launch a full deep investigation, and once we know what's going on here, we will give you a response. Then once you do that, then you can take some time to launch a proper investigation, and people won't get mad at you for taking your time to actually investigate something.
Well, Deca's already kind of known for rushing things. We've seen countless times that they release a lot of updates probably before they should be released. Fortunately, they did not do that with enchantments. They've decided to push that back to hopefully when they're very happy with them and it'll be a good release. But like Forge, for example, it wasn't in a very good state when it released, and they very quickly made some changes to it. But at that point, with Exalted Blueprints for several Oryx 3 items dropping from Lost Hulls, a lot of damage had already been done with the Forge releasing early. So Deca is definitely used to rushing things like this. Well, not like this, but used to rushing things. So it would make sense that they'd try to rush something out for this.
It makes sense based on their track record, but that doesn't make it good.
I'm not trying to say that it's good.
On a somewhat related note, because he blew up the whole situation, the Sebchuf drama where he left.
Well, as a result of this, he was no longer a Deca partner. So I don't think it was ever stated whether he was removed or he simply left. But after this, Sebchu stopped being a Deca partner.
Yeah. Which is probably, well, it's definitely related, but how deep the relation goes is not really known. There's not a whole lot to say about this one. Just kind of, somebody tries to call out a situation for someone in the player base and then gets punished for it, potentially,
Well,
maybe not. It's retaliation, potentially. Well, it's retaliation either way, unless, of course, he left willingly, in which case it's not. But if they did force him to leave, then yes, it is retaliation. That's not particularly a good thing.
Prior to this, Sebchu was already known by a lot of people as one of, if not the most controversial Deca partner. I know a lot of people who hate him. Of course, there's plenty of people who love him, but he did do a lot of controversial things. So it kind of makes sense if he was removed, because he did a lot, and I do know people who thought he should just never have been a Deca partner.
I don't know. I don't keep up with ROM content creators because the ROM content scene is not very good.
And in Sebchu's interview on the blog, it's actually mentioned that he is controversial. So Deca was aware that he was controversial. So it would make sense if he was removed, and it wasn't just simply, but if he was removed, it wasn't simply just because of retaliation to the post.
I mean, you can always make excuses for retaliation, but it seems like it was retaliation. It's not provable one way or the other, but that's what it looks like to me personally. But that's pretty much all there is to say about that one.
So that's all the drama we have from 2021. I think we're going to go back a little bit more to...
Well, we have the about doxing.
That, I don't really have much to say on that. There was doxing. Deca released a one-paragraph response. This was like a good while after.
This was kind of funny with how minuscule their response is. Hello, Realmers. Today we want to address an issue that we take very seriously, doxing. We take it so seriously we wrote 4 sentences about it.
Yep. Just reminding everyone that doxing is indeed against the terms of service, because we didn't know that before. No one, not a single person knew that doxing was against the terms of service, so that's why people were doxing. Because they didn't know that it was a bad thing. They didn't know it was a crime. They just thought it was okay, it was a little fun and games, a joke, a big old joke, That's what people legitimately thought before this was posted. So I'm very thankful that they posted this to let everyone know that doxing is in fact illegal.
Yeah, no, they wrote a total of 4 sentences here. Well, if you include the play hard, stay safe, the Realm team, then I guess you could say 5 sentences. But that's one of the most minuscule responses I've ever seen to anything.
And this doxing was not like a small thing. Several people were legitimately getting doxed, and it took Deca quite a long time to release a statement about it. And then their statement was this.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of understand Deca's position here because the doxing isn't they're not particularly related to it. It's people in their community doxing other people in their community. They didn't really have anything to do with it either way. This response isn't awful as far as responses go. It's very short, but there's not really much more they could do in this situation. So overall, I wouldn't say this one is horrible. it's just kind of funny to make fun of them for putting this little effort into it after waiting for a very long time to speak out on it. I'd more so like bullying Deca, so that's why I brought this one up.
Alright, next up we've got something from, I believe this is Month of the Mad God 2018. There was an Ice Cave event that dropped the Shield of Ogmer, and at the beginning of the event, it was relatively common, a lot of people were getting it, but then just a little bit after that, they reduced the drop rate significantly and didn't say anything about it for the majority of the event, which got a lot of people mad.
Let's see, if we go to the actual post announcing this, it only has 324 upvotes. How many upvotes were official Deca posts getting at the time?
300 seems about right. There's a producer's letter for the end of Month of the Mad God that has 379. This one includes their eventual response. So the event was announced in this blog post. The Ice Cave event ran from the 24th of August to the 28th of August, and then their eventual response. It took them until the end of Month of the Mad God producer's letter to actually confirm that they did indeed reduce the drop rates. Right here in the producer's letter for End of Month of the Mad God clarification and updates, it is legitimate to discuss the Ice Cave event. We decided to add it to spice things up and make the event more successful by rewarding by adding a Shield of Ogmer. We want to give everyone a chance at getting rare items in the game instead of locking that content up forever behind arbitrary legacy rules. We understand that some players are not happy with that decision. Even within the community, opinions on that topic diverge. Which, I've seen a lot of people who think Eventwide should be like this rare, elusive thing, and a lot of people who think that something so important to the game, something so game-changing like the Shield of Ogmer giving armor break, should not be locked behind an incredibly rare drop. And then below that, the part that deserves an apology is that we failed to give communications the proper priority. We were so focused on making everything happen that was planned for the month that we dropped the ball on that one. One specific example that enraged most of you being when we messed up the rates of the Ice Cave event chest again and realized that almost 1 Ogmer per run was dropping. Like during the winter event, we had to take action and decided to reduce drop rates, but still kept them around twice as high as they usually would be, which we thought was a good compromise. While we realized it quite fast, our worst oversight was surely to fail to communicate about it immediately, as we promised we'd do. But just to be clear, this is not a bait and switch tactic. Moving forward, because an apology is not enough for a mistake that happened twice, we plan to take a hard look at our event quality assurance process. Admittedly, statistics alone do not always provide the full picture, and we understand that people can feel justifiably burned when drop rates are changed without clear and immediate communication. We'll be looking into various ways to ensure that communication will not fail by the wayside in situations like this. So compared to the post from 2020, this one actually feels a lot more genuine to me, and I don't believe they ever had this issue again with events. Of course, they never put Ogmer and Ice Cave after this, at least to my memory.
I don't believe after this one they ever did. There were several periods where I wasn't playing the game, so I'm not 100% sure, but as far as I'm aware, this was the last time they put it in an event chest. This one, yeah, I agree. It was a fairly legitimate response here. It was very annoying and disappointing with the nerfs to the drop rate. I understand why they did it, because it's supposed to be a rare item and takes effort to get. But for... how long was the event? What, 5 days?
4 or 5 days, roughly.
Yeah. Having 5 days where you could get the item wouldn't completely destroy it from being rare. Like, I don't know. The drop rates were too high at the start of the event, but I don't know if nerfing them immediately within,
They communicated here that the drop rates being too high was an error, so that would have been failure on quality assurance, as mentioned in the previous episode of the podcast. But it also was just a failure of communication to communicate that those were not the intended rates, and they didn't reduce them, but they had it double of what they intended the rates to be.
It's not entirely clear whether they mean that they accidentally made the rates that high, or whether they made the rates that high and then realized it was a mistake afterwards. So it's hard to tell. The wording is a bit vague, so it's hard to tell exactly what they mean there. But this one actually is a fairly good response. Like, they communicated why they did that, what the decision making was, and they, moving forward, made a change and didn't have that problem again.
Some other problems were also communicated in this producer's letter, which we'll come back to in a moment when we get to some of the other controversies of Month of the Mad God 2018.
We
And
can
it
actually
is
get into that right now if you'd like.
right now. So another thing that happened during Month of the Mad God 2018 was the end of summer sale. Basically, what this was a sale. There were some packages in the shop. There were a lot of packages, but they could only be purchased a limited amount of times. So there was one 80% off package that could only be purchased 10 times. Then there was a 65% off package that could only be purchased 20 times. And then a 55% off package, or is that 45%? It is 55%. A 55% off package that could only be purchased 35 times. And at the time, these were really good packages. There was the Mini ST Skins pack, which was all the Mini ST Skins at the time. The ST Weapons pack, which was every ST weapon at the time. And the 12 Vault Chest plus 10 Ambrosia pack. So these were really good packs. And the event, you could only buy it 10 times, which was pretty controversial. I remember a lot of people were mad about this.
Just to clarify, this is 10 times in total across all servers and all people. It could be purchased. It was not, you can buy it 10 times per account. Just to clarify that. It was, in total, the entire community could only purchase each of these 10 times.
Another thing that I remember people were mad about is when the packs actually went live, you had to refresh your game to be able to purchase them. So a lot of people were camping at the mystery box shop waiting for them to go live, and they weren't able to buy them until they refreshed the game. Which a lot of people were mad about it, because it was, of course, only a few people were able to get the packages.
This was a big failure on their part. Like, it was very hyped up by Deca, and it was it was just such a massive failure.
To get back to the producer's letter, here's the response from that producer's letter on the end of summer sale. Let's also tackle the end of summer sale and get the fact out of the way that there was no intention of scamming anyone with the technical glitch that players were experiencing, requiring a complete reload of the game to see the updated packs. It was an actual bug that was not discovered in time, and also was seemingly not happening to everyone. Additionally, we also got a good deal of flack ranging from scummy business practice to just sadness over not everybody being able to get a pack. Not quite what we had in mind. We were thinking of a way that we could give a massive discount to close the craziest month of the year. We are a business, and operating the game is what allows us to pay people. Infrastructure and development allows us to pay people, infrastructure and development. So we were not able to just throw out every item in unlimited quantities at huge discounts. We thought to make a few lucky people happy by using first come first serve instead of RNG, while also giving others some solid deals would be the way to go. It seems as if the very tight restrictions made the promotion go more toxic than expected. We will have to see if there's anything we can do to alleviate that pain in the future. So, obviously, there has been nothing like this since then.
Having it so limited and, like, just so restrictive like that was a very bad marketing idea. And I do agree with the scummy business practices part of it, because you had to purchase the gold before you could buy the pack. And so anyone who wanted to even attempt to get these would have to buy gold beforehand. And so there is an argument to be made that it was a massive scam. Now, you might have been able to file a support ticket to get a refund, but it's not entirely sure whether that happened. Like, it's not entirely known whether anyone actually got refunded because of this. So, anyways, there's not much more to say about this here.
I don't have much more to say. I do like their communication here. It does feel a lot more genuine than what we have today. The stuff we get today seems a lot more corporate and less like actual like people behind writing them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Anyways, we could move on to the next one, which would be the Vital Combat.
The final controversy we want to go over is the Vital Combat and Exaltation talk. So Vital Combat obviously was a super controversial change. So a lot of people had a lot of things to say on it. A lot of the things that people were actually complaining about was the nerf to Priest that came along with the Vital Combat. Let's see, let's try to find a comment with a lot of upvotes here.
Search by top.
This post is heavily downvoted, so you can search by top. I've never used this before. How do I do that? I can't.
You just go right below.
I didn't realize you could do that. Okay, anyway. Yeah. So here's some of the comments here that say, "What are you doing to Priest?" And then they're nerfing a balanced class, sadly. Seems like Blizzard balancing.
You can, even within these comments, you can see a lot of arguing.
Yeah, there's a lot of okay, in the comments of this post, there is a lot of arguing. Here's one comment here. "I've said this many times before, please before you start doing all these changes such as nerfing classes, focus on permabanning hackers. What game doesn't permaban hackers? Even Roblox minigames permaban hackers. They're just complaining about hackers. This is something they did address eventually. Hackers are now permanently banned on their first offense, instead of them getting several chances or whatever they had before." Alright, here's one that has a lot of upvotes. This might actually be a copy pasta. Let's see what they have to say. "You have ruined your game. Implementing even a fraction of these changes..." No, this is definitely... I've definitely copy pasted this before. I don't know if this is legitimate or not, this original one. It doesn't sound legitimate, so I'm just going to assume it's not legitimate.
I think this one actually is the original.
It might be the original, but it might also be just a meme.
I mean, this is the original Reddit post for this update. This post is the original of this copy pasta.
It's the yeah, but what's the original post satire? Because it sounds satire. It does not sound legitimate.
It may or may not be satire. It sounds like something someone would say realistically, but it also could be satire.
We'll go ahead and give it the benefit of the doubt and say it's genuine. Alright, so here we go. I'll read it again. So one of the comments on this post says, "You have ruined your game. Implementing even a fraction of these changes will literally stop the game from being fun. As a paying player, I really don't care about the Vital Combat because I think it's a nice balance, though you are probably angering a majority of your paying players who spent hundreds of thousands on Divine Pets. So congrats on angering the player base off your game that actually gives you money. But that change is insignificant compared to the fact that you have made an already extremely difficult in-game, near impossible and no longer fun. You have absolutely neutered Priest, made an already terrible ST set, which happens to be for Priest, somehow worse, took away the thing that made Paladins Paladins, taken away the feeling of being a max hero doing serious damage in an in-game dungeon by nerfing every single buff. Do you think that these buffs were so OP that Armored made people unkillable? Have you played your own game? These aren't just nerfs, these are invalidations, not just invalidations of classes. You will make your game invalid if this patch releases." Now, I am not entirely sure if this post is genuine. It sounds very satire, but it is kind of it's sort of blowing up a lot of the concerns people had. You know, they're like, "Oh no, you can't nerf Priest, you can't nerf buffs, you're just making the game worse. No, you can't do this. How could you? Paladins healing with their HP boost, I don't think that was ever intended, so it only makes sense that it was fixed here and was changed. Paladins were not
Okay,
killed. They still provide.
You say that it wasn't intended, but Paladin was added by Wild Shadow. So, like, they're not even first-hand removed from the creation of Paladin. So them saying that it's a bug is like them saying that it was never intended just doesn't particularly seem correct to me.
Well, maybe it's not intended to them. Maybe they never said that it wasn't intended. I don't think Deca ever did. But since they removed it, I think they believe that it just wasn't something Paladin needed. And Paladin already gives damaging, which is a pretty significant buff. And if you don't have Priest, you also get the healing, which is pretty good. So I don't think that an HP boost was also required for Paladin.
This was probably one of the most controversial updates Deca ever did. Even if we go into the comments of this, you can just see people arguing. Like, I think everyone was unhappy with this update, but the things people are unhappy with are different. Some people complain about exaltation, some people complain about class nerfing, some people complain about in and out of combat, but honestly, I think most people think in and out of combat was a good change. Some people didn't like it, but I feel like overall most people were fine with it.
The update, it's also been out for almost a year now, so people have gotten used to it. So it's not really as big a deal as these people made it seem, whether they were being genuine about what they said or not. It's not nearly as big as people said. I don't think the game's dead. You know, it's been a year. It's still getting updated. It doesn't really feel dead to me, if you had to ask. Though maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've been dreaming this whole time and the game shut down just a month after these changes came. I wouldn't be able to tell you.
The player base does feel smaller than it did a year ago, but that might just be, I don't know, that might just be because that's like when Exalt came out and like there were a bunch of returning players because I hadn't played much before Exalt came out. So I'm not entirely sure. The player base feels smaller now than it did at Deca's peak, but I don't know. It's hard to say.
Oh, another thing. This was commented before the initial testing, so Exaltations did remove progress on death, and Tomes did have a cooldown. Those things were both changed, and those are some of the big things that might have calmed down people, because did it really need a cooldown? No, I don't think Tomes needed a cooldown. They already gave significantly less healing, so giving them a cooldown was just like nailing the coffin, just sealing Priest's soul away. But they did remove the cooldown, and they also removed the setbacks on Exaltation progress. So it's pretty fine now, as is. I do remember originally for Exaltations, you also had to run 150 of every single dungeon, and it's hard enough to run 75. As someone who isn't in raiding servers, it's certainly very annoying to have to run so many. But most of it's actually not that bad outside of Voids, of course, which hopefully we will see a Void rework at some point in the future.
Exalting a single class isn't that bad. I feel like most people could do it over the course of a couple months. Like, if you were straight grinding, you could do it in a month, but that would require a lot of tolerating a very repetitive gameplay. But, like, you could do it over a couple months fairly easily if you were invested. Exalting every single class in the game to get all of the rewards for it, like the drop rate boosts and the like XP boosts and stuff for different classes, that seems like a lot of pain to do, so I don't know. Personally, I'm not as big a fan of Exaltations. But I do think the changes they made afterwards were good, like reducing it to 75, making it so that you don't lose progress on death. Those were good changes.
I don't think there's much to say about this.
Yeah, mostly we finished up with that. There's not a lot left. Vital Combat, like, even today, Vital Combat has a lot of the community split. But, like, overall, most people are fine with it.
Of course, the final thing we're going to mention is the incubation maze, because that's something that exists. It was an event exclusive blueprint. You had to, or the item was event exclusive, and the blueprint were both exclusive to an Easter event, and it is by far the most overpowered maze in the entire game. So it's really annoying for people to have to who missed it, to just have to live without this obscenely powerful item. Of course, it is way too overpowered. I've heard that it was balanced around Oryx 3 items, but this was from an event, so...
They should have just made it drop from 03. I don't know why they didn't.
They could have made it a drop, but it's still really powerful, especially for only costing 45 forge material. You can forge it easier than Oryx 3 items. It's just super powerful. And it was event exclusive. People hate that it's event exclusive because it's such a powerful item. You really missed out if you didn't get it, which I suppose for their intention of trying to have more people play through the event, it worked, because obviously you didn't want to miss out on this, so it got a lot more people playing. I know some who came back specifically to farm for incubation maze and then go back to not playing. It's just not a really fun thing to have this such a supremely powerful item that you just could only get from one specific event. And it's for Summoner, but that's something for another episode.
Yeah, we can have you rant for 17 hours about Summoner some other day. Alright, well, that's probably going to be it for this episode.
See ya.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Scholarly Sorcerers Podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, and if you have any comments, questions, or feedback, please leave it in the comments below. I apologize that this episode was late. I had to work overtime because people didn't show up at my job, so I wasn't able to finish editing it in time, so that's why this one's coming out late. Also, the next episode will be featuring a secret, famous special guest, so make sure to look forward to that one.
So congrats on angling the player base off your game that actually gives you money, but that change is insignificant compared to the fact that you have made an already extremely difficult in-game near impossible and no longer fun. We'll have to redo that because Patrick dropped a pin, and so that's going to pick up on the audio.
Yeah, okay.